Good morning, everybody. Hello, everybody. As our attendees start to kind of roll ourselves in, it's right at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. down on for Mountain and down where Francia is. And so we hope wherever you are in the world that you are enjoying today. We'll let everybody kind of take a few minutes to start to pull in before we get started on our webinar. We have a distinguished panel of a panel of panelists, as so we say, and we will get started talking about how to successfully implement a web to print, and we'll ask the questions of that everyone's kind of been dying to understand, whether you are thinking about jumping into a web to print or whether or not you have a web to print and maybe need to relaunch and it didn't go well, so you want to start over. We're going to talk about all of that coming up today. Lots of people starting to work their way into here. And let me make sure that we can see all of the panelists. Let's see. So host view, attendee view. We're gonna make sure that everyone can see everything on the gallery. So if my team back at the office will let me know to make sure that we can see everything that is going on. Housekeeping rules. Do want to make sure that everyone remembers we have questions. We have a Q&A button. If you want to hit that question button and ask the question, we'll be able to answer that both during the webinar and then even coming up towards the end. We'll have questions and answers with our esteemed panelists of individuals, all of them being in and around the print industry, all being in and around OnPrintShop, and we will do very, very well. I see some people from the UP of Michigan. So Mike, people from up around
all right,
area. We'll let everybody. Well, and I should say for Stephanie, you're even closer to the UP of Michigan as well. We'll let everybody introduce themselves. We're going to give it about another minute and a half or so, and then we'll actually get started in where. Hey, look at there. We've got Cape Town, South Africa. Nikki, good to see you as you're coming in. I know Rhonda. Rhonda's just up the road from me in Central Arkansas with her. She probably has Joe sitting over her shoulder watching this as well. So we want to say hi to everyone. Thanks for everyone for jumping in. I just kind of looking through a lot of the different lists. I see some names. There's Kyle Lasker, way out on the West Coast. Lou, good to see you. Mike, let's see. We've got, I see Star. There's Stephen Riddle. Warren, good to see you in here. Warren's going to have a lot of good information when it comes away from this. So nice to see everybody. We'll give it about another 30 seconds, then we'll kind of get rolling on, let everybody get in here. For those that are watching this kind of after the fact, we're glad that you were able to pick this video up and are interested in our topic of conversation. So we'll kind of get started here a little. Let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about mastering web to print. This is a guide to a successful implementation, because there are fears that come along with thinking, I want this type of technology, or I have this type of technology, maybe it didn't go well before. And so that's what we really wanted to talk about today. And we brought in a group of people that can have those conversations and hopefully help alleviate some of those fears and give you some ideas as you're moving forward. So what we're going to talk about today is, obviously, we're going to introduce and let everybody introduce themselves, talk about who our panel is. We'll talk about, kind of how we chose the right web to print and what we or you can be afraid of when stepping into a platform like this. We'll talk about how we will plan our implementation, how you can start off on the right foot. And then once you're into implementation, there's challenges. We all know best laid plans go out the window the minute you get started, but that's okay. We can navigate those challenges. And then, you got to start thinking ahead long term, that once we get the implementation going, once we get to our live point, once we get our initial setup like we want, now what do we do from there? Because it's a continuous process. I'm not gonna say never ending, but I'm gonna say it's a continual process as you move forward. And then obviously we'll have questions and answers with all of our panelists. So let's meet our distinguished panelists as we come forward this morning. So real quick, I'll start with me. I'm Trent Foreman. I'm with OnPrintShop. I'm here in the US. I'm the regional manager for North America. We are your web to print platform. And, I've been around the print industry for a little over 15, 17 years between being with manufacturers, being in a print shop, and then here being in the software world. So I'm your host today, and I'll be helping to kind of move the conversation along. But the bulk of the conversation is going to come from these wonderful individuals. So Mike, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ladies first on this. And let's start with Francia. So Francia, if you would introduce yourself, where you're from, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Perfect. Hi everyone. My name is Francia. I'm from Honduras in Central America. And I have been in the print industry for about coming to 5 years now. So I started working at a family-owned printer in Texas right after I graduated college, and then transitioned into the print web to print world, and then eventually ended up leading the migration process to OnPrintShop. And coming close to 3.5 years now, I've been working independently with clients who use OnPrintShop and helping them with their transition to OnPrintShop, moving all of their B2B sites or even B2C sites to OnPrint. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for 3 years. I have 3.5 years of experience with OnPrint, and I take care of doing maintenance work, starting stores, doing trainings with customers, doing the initial setups for all of the new clients that come in. So if you guys need help with that, let me know.
And I appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons why we invited Francia, is because she works with a lot of our customers. She sees a lot of this, so there's a good varied experience of where she comes from. So our second panelist comes from the Great White North of Canada. Well, or kind of, she's north of the border, we'll say. But Stephanie is with Lacoste Printing, a great customer. And so Stephanie, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. So hi, I'm Stephanie. I am the operations specialist at Lacoste Printing. I've been in the print industry for about 10 years, and I've done everything from production, CSR, pre-press graphic design, and now operations. I've been with Lacoste for about 5 years now. Lacoste Printing, we're located in Tecumseh, Ontario. And we do digital and offset printing as well as signage. It's about 50-50 signage to digital and offset. And we've been in business for about 70 years. And we have implemented the web to print software, I think, just last spring. So that's where we're at.
And we appreciate you and Jeff for being with us. And I'm glad he asked, when I asked if you would be able to join, I appreciate him offering you up shamelessly
yeah.
to join today. So good. So from digital offset, some wide formats, a little bit of everything from the commercial world. And then last but not least, we have Mike from wonderful Erie Custom Signs.
Hi. Yes. Again, Mike from Erie Custom Signs. Been in business about a little over 14 years, and we specialize in interior ADA braille signage. We started with the engraving. We moved to UV layered print, and we've been, like I said, we've been doing it. So we have a paint, we have lasers, we have the equipment that's not necessarily in the world of print, but we're using print technology and to move forward, and we're just getting ready to launch our OnPrintShop, and we're excited because we're able to do grade 2 braille, create proofs, things that we couldn't do before. That was back and forth, took a week or so between us and the customer. So I know I might be jumping ahead, but this is exactly where we need to be. So we're, I gotta say, we're using print technology in our signage. That's what it comes down to.
And that's why I love the fact that, yes, you're right at that cusp. So you've kind of now very fresh on your mind of kind of going through this process, but you're right. And we've all talked earlier, and what I want to be able to pick your brain about is the fact that you're right. This is a little bit different in terms of not just the thinking, but the terminology, from what you're used to in that signage world. So we will most definitely get to that. So as we kind of move through, everybody comes to this particular thought process at one time or another, and it's okay. I've decided to buy a web to print saw. I need to be able to help streamline my capture. There's the changing dynamics, analog over to digital. The buzzwords workflow and automation, print embellishments, finishing, web to print, web to pack. All those terms get thrown around. You see them. They get marketed to you, and you say, okay, it's time to make that decision. And we'll start a little bit in that context, and we'll kind of go real quick before we kind of step into the fears and the thoughts. But Mike, I'm going to let you start because you just kind of said it, and you guys made that decision of going, okay, we need to streamline things.
Yeah, what it came down to is, and if you can notice, the color of my hair matches the background of our walls. So the decision was made is we can't do things like we used to do it, like we've always done it. Takes too much labor. It is too difficult. And I just do a little survey with people in there from 35 on down at our company and ask the question, when was the last time you picked up the phone to place an order? When was the last time you actually filled out, sent an email and for the personal? And they don't. They fill out a form, they go to a configurator of some type, they place an order for all their personal shopping purposes. Well, we said we need to do that for our sign business, and we needed pre-designed packages that they could customize. And so we developed that. But the ordering process was still the old way of back and forth. Send us an email, they request a quote, we send the quote, they go, great, we'd like it, all right, give us a deposit, then we'll create the proofs, and then the proofs go back to them. And it takes time to set up the proofs. Well, now they can just go get their pricing, save their proofs, save their everything they need. And for us, we mainly wholesale, so our wholesale customers will be able to go out with a proof booklet. It's just amazing what it can do. So it's going to be a tool for our customers that will set us apart.
I totally agree. But into getting there, and Stephanie, you and I talked on the front end of, before you and Jeff really, kind of made the decision, you were used to MIS. And so there were some, you've done a lot inside of not just even Lacoste, the different pieces, but there's still some kind of fear into this. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start this off with a question to all of our audience. So GB, if you would launch our poll and our question, where we're going to ask so what are you afraid of? What's keeping you from transitioning to, a web to print? What's your thoughts? So I'll tell you what, if everyone will give you a couple seconds to answer that, but Stephanie, I want to ask you the question of, what were some of your apprehensions to an e-commerce platform, a web to print platform, when you guys were making the decision, okay, we need to go this way?
So for some context, we sort of already had a web to print software that we were using. So we could sort of see the potential, but I don't think that we were using it like to its full capacity. And there was a lot of things about it that we didn't like. So going into this, we sort of knew what we didn't want and what we did want. We definitely had some of those fears. We're sort of a small team here of about 10 people. So time and the work involved was definitely a concern. For sure.
Okay, well, and I'll kind of transition a little bit because I think that makes a very valid point. And how did you guys evaluate that? And then going into everyone's answering, so I'll give you a couple more seconds to answer up. We've got about half of the participants adding to our poll, and I think some of these fears are very justified. So when we're talking about this, and some of the points I wrote down from our conversation. And Francia, you've been on the front end of this, and you've been kind of even in the back end talking to customers. But when evaluating that platform, these are kind of the points that we really want to talk to. How easy is it to use setup, and then addressing a little bit of the fears on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with the clients that I've worked with, they always, if they already have a web to print platform, they want to upgrade it because it, like the ones that existed before were a little outdated. So they want to make it easier for their customers as well, to have a good user experience, and make it as simple as possible, because also not many of the customers are very techy, so they want to like simplify everyone's life. So
I agree, and over the majority of the people here saying I don't have the any resources or the right resources for stepping into this. So I think that goes along with our with kind of a, what are you afraid of, what are you worried about as you're stepping in. So we've done our evaluation, we've understand that it is a fit, it is something we need, but now it comes down to, okay, we've pulled the trigger, we've done it. Now what we do, and this is kind of the heart of where we really wanted to be able to talk today. So let's talk about planning your implementation strategy, and we'll roll back to, so Stephanie, you guys already kind of had one when we got ready to get going. What did you and Jeff sit down and kind of talk about?
Well, it was a huge priority for us for the new software to work at the minimum very similar to the old software. So it was primarily B2B on our old system. So setting up our B2B storefronts with OnPrint, so that our existing customers had a seamless transition to the new system was a big thing to get ready to launch. So setting up those B2B storefronts was a huge priority, and we almost had that ready like completely first before we even considered doing any B2C work on the website. And then we had to sort of make a plan on getting everyone involved, making the assets for all the templates, and we had a lot of help from OnPrint as well, setting up those templates because we were sort of copying our existing ones into the new template.
Well, good. And Francis, when you step into in with a customer and you're starting to kind of talk about that initial, how important is it to find that key stakeholder? Who's going to be the hands-on?
yeah, for sure, you have to have a team that kind of has an idea of what stores are the most urgent to transfer over, to transition. My suggestion is always make a list of all of the stores, and then how many templates you have that organized, set up in one place so that it's ready to roll. And then, as Stephanie was saying, compile all of the templates, because it does take time. Also, it's very important to make sure and go into your old stores and go over products that have been used over the past year or haven't, because then you're wasting a lot of time transitioning templates that are not really going to be used. So it's also time to do a cleanup. I think a cleanup would be a good starting point when you want to move to a new software, and so you spend all your resources on things that actually will be ordered, and not a lot on things that are not even being used anymore. And also getting your users prepared, doing the sales team, doing the initial talks with users that you will be transferred to a new platform, and making sure that you understand all of the features available, and that everyone's on board.
And Mike, you guys, when you kind of got started, I mean, obviously a plan when you guys started making a plan, you had, a timeline involved with some milestones that you guys were looking for, there was a little bit more involved because you had some custom things that you guys wanted to do, and you identified, but you have a lot, you've got several of your team that are also involved. They're doing different parts of this. Am I correct?
Yes, we have 2 people full-time working on this. But once we're up and running, I don't know if it'll be 2 or just 1. I'm hoping it's 2 because it grows. But we had to dedicate 2 people. Now, when I say dedicate, it's their full-time job, but they have other duties on occasion that they used to do that they help out with. But I would say one person 80%, the other person 100% of their time.
And that's good. And, let's talk about that point down there of getting to know your support team. And I think, Stephanie, you said it. I know, Mike, you've talked about it, but it's, trying to make sure that you're not doing this all on your own, getting the advice. I mean, I love my comment down at the bottom, that's don't reinvent the wheel. And it's, find things that are already there and then maximize what they're able to do.
I agree.
Stephanie, on your end, so when we talked about, starting with the B2B and then moving to B2C, do you think, in that particular thought process of identifying, hey, we've already got our B2B customers, we want to, maximize there, I know you guys have come back to B2C but that's kind of as a secondary thought. Was that an easier process for you to start with one particular customer and then come back to the kind of the wider view?
Yeah, it was almost like a really good way to learn sort of how everything works, because we had, a very set way that we used to do things. So it was just a matter of like creating products and copying templates. And then in a more general sense, looking at B2C, like there's not really that much of a time crunch for us to get our B2C products out there. So with everything that we had learned in setting up the B2B stores, we could take our time and build those new products and templates. And a lot of it is, you build one and a lot of it's the same. So it's a good way to learn for sure.
How did you guys go about, and Francie, I know let me ask you this, how do when you're working with any of your customers that are that you're supporting, let's take Kevin's question that he has here, handling pricing tables, we're using things that are already in place or like a static price grid, or are we actually creating something completely new? I know I'm going back to your comment of go back and take a look maybe at your existing platform and see what's being used and used well. So what's a good, give me a good process of how, you're going about setting up a new product and pricing.
Yeah. So most of the stores that I've transitioned over haven't had the pricing revised in a couple of sometimes years. So a good starting point would be, revising everything. If you feel like your pricing is pretty up to date, pricing tables work, or even if you have a store that you already have in place, I will just go in and check all of the pricing and then import that. You can import pricing into OnPrint if you have like a large variety, or you can enter it manually, which doesn't take long. The good thing about OnPrint is that I've used it 3 years now, so to me, all things are pretty obvious, but I know in the beginning, it can be a bit confusing because you're used to seeing a different dashboard, for example. But planning it out and looking at things that are most urgent. So there's a difference between urgent and important. So separating those two things is a great way to start. And because I've worked with people who have had a platform and they haven't used it in a year. So it's been like idle for a year. And it's because there's been a lack of planning, what needs to be moved over, or a lack of, revising pricing, or seeing, what products are being used, what is not being used. So having a strategy and people who are on board with moving things over would be the number one thing I would do before starting with a new software.
I got you. And really, before we kind of transition into the next piece that goes along with this, because all best laid plans go out the, most of the time go out the window. But, Mike and Stephanie, was there any one particular thing that you feel like you did that made the transition a little bit easier?
Having beforehand a list of the stores. So one thing I did with a customer, and that's all credits to them because they had it in place already. And shout out to Jay Alapati, who I think is in the attendees. But they they did it pretty well, and I just jumped in and helped him. But they had a list of all of their customers and the ones that had been inactive for a year already, and some of them have come back in this 2-year transition that we've had. But they had, how many customizable templates they had, how many static templates, how many inventory products. And we kind of like sorted everything and started very small, and then just, continued with the stores that were a little bigger and more complicated. So that kind of gives you, and it's also a good starting point for your team, because starting with a store that only has 2 templates is very quick to, very easy to get 2 templates, as opposed to a store that has 70, and you have to see where you're pulling all the templates from. So snowballing is good, because you never run out of work, and you feel like you're making progress, even though it's, at one point you're stuck with one store that has 40 customizable templates. But I think starting small is the way to go.
All right, Mike, same question. Yeah. Or Stephanie, who do you
I was just gonna say, I completely agree. It was a great opportunity for us to do some cleanup. We did something very similar with our customer list, and it was a good opportunity to evaluate our pricing just in general, just because it's sort of a fresh start.
Totally agree.
I would also add that with other clients, what I have done is they've had the urgency of so they have like a lead that needs a store. So we started with that, and that kind of got them going to show that store that was really good and it worked really well. It was really streamlined, to use it as a selling point for other potential clients. So, they already had that client in mind that they needed to build a store for.
I gotcha. Mike?
And for us, the pricing, it gave us the opportunity to put quantity pricing tables in, and it worked well. And we're B2B, but it's the old-fashioned way, email back and forth. We didn't have any type of portal prior to this for our customers. They could go and buy online and change the text, but they couldn't see the changes. They couldn't get the proofs. They couldn't do any of that. So there was nothing there. So we started with the B2C, with the option that once they sign up, we can give them their dealer discount if they're a B2B customer. Then we will go to dedicated portals in the future. There is a question somebody asked about our dedicated people.
I saw that. I was gonna say I don't know if I was gonna leave that there or let you talk about that going on into the success moving forward. But no, I think this is.
I'll just do it.
I think this is good.
The 2 people dedicated is for building out the templates, building out the back end, getting the pricing, all of that in there. But our SEO and marketing, those are our typical. The people that we use for our marketing and SEO on our current website, they're doing that for that. So it's that service, those people we have today that we contract for SEO and marketing, they're already in changing things up, putting the content, putting the alt tags in, doing all the things. Where we're doing is creating the templates and making sure the darn thing works, and then can we print it, and does it work, and does it match up with what we did before, and so on and so forth.
I got you. And that was going to be a big piece of what I was talking. I know we're going to talk about in terms of, okay, now I've got to the live now. Which way do I go? So we'll come back. We'll revisit that coming up on the next one. But I want to transition us into talking about the challenges, because again, rule number 1, there will be challenges, and they can even be challenges from as simple as, okay, we started down this path, we're 1 or 2 weeks in, we got slammed with work. So Stephanie, you're talking, you don't have a ton, you have what, about 10 staff members or so that are inside. So when the work comes in, and you kind of have to stop. So that's one obvious challenge that comes into play is the time factor. But and don't go too crazy on all this, but the challenges that you guys have faced in that startup, where you were kind of able to, maybe you weren't expecting this, or we overcame it and kind of pivoted and went a little bit different direction.
We had the benefit that our old site could stay up while we were doing all of this, so we weren't under that strict of a time crunch. I know we wanted to get the new system going, but we could still take orders the old way. So that was a good thing that we had going for us. One challenge specifically on your list here, you have integrations with other software. We had, I would say, our biggest difficulty was integrating the EPMS software.
Okay.
So it was just the challenge was sort of figuring out where our problem was coming from, and having to keep in contact with our IT team, the enterprise team, and the OnPrint team, because figuring out like where the specific problem was a bit of a challenge.
And we have a very good relationship with the EPMS team, so we were able to work very well with them on that.
Yeah, for sure. Keeping everybody in good communication certainly helped. But yeah, the don't rush is a big thing. So just taking it sort of one product at a time, and keeping on everybody, and
a lot of live testing for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and Mike, and you're Mike, you're kind of right at that point. So you're hitting that little point of where you're getting ready to go. But transitioning new customers. Have you talking to some of your customers about, hey, trying this?
We have.
Got any pushback on that?
No, because what we had was a WordPress WooCommerce thing,
okay.
and so from where we're going to where we're going to is night and day. We've asked for a little feedback from some of our customers, and we also have people looking at it that are not from the print or the sign industry. They're just regular consumers, so we need our user experience, all of that, to be easy for them to do. So we're making changes left and right to our user experience while we're changing templates and getting ready to go, and all the other things, and then the API integrations. But you don't have to be too technical, because I'm going to tell you, the OnPrintShop support team has been very helpful. And a lot of times it's not they need to do custom code. It's just it's in the software. We just need to learn where it is and how to do it.
Yeah. And this, I'm going to ask this question because it goes along with a little bit of what Kevin just asked about, did people, your coworkers, your staff experience difficulty in changing their workflow? You have a very good example, because in your world of signage, the terminology was, I'm not going to say truly night and day, but it was a difference in the, your meaning of one thing versus the meaning in a more of a print workflow.
Yeah, the one thing that I chuckle on is, we call it, our tray or our bed for our printers or engravers or for the router. Well, now we're talking imposition and schema, and we had to Google those to figure out what the heck is this stuff. And now that we've got it, we're like, oh, this is super cool. And now we're like really digging into the RIP software and say, well, can we bring this over and not have to touch it? So there's just a lot of neat things. But regarding the question with people worried about anxiety and all that, it's been they're excited. They want to see the change. They know this will take us more from regional, which we're national, but it will really open up the market for us, because we can be open 24/7.
All right, so Franzia, you obviously you've seen your fair share of challenges and things from simple to complex, and understanding that a simple challenge can knock you down just as much as a big complex one. Usually the complex ones are easier to talk through. So I took a lot of this from your our conversation, but what are things that you run into?
The most kind of like the hardest thing is getting people acquainted with the software, and letting them know where to find things. That even for me, it was really hard at the beginning, because the old software that I was using at my full-time job had inventory management, whereas OnPrint says stock management. So if I typed inventory in OnPrint, it showed something completely different. So like every change, it's just about practicing and getting there and looking at all of the terms. Also, moving over the users in your B2B stores. can be challenging if you have a lot. So if you're dealing with a lot of franchisees and you have to, do a big import of users, and then, let them send out that email, hey, this is your new username, this is your temporary password, make sure you change it, because you get all of those options at OnPrint to, modify the emails and everything. Some people will have a lot of questions of, where do I do this? Where do I do that? Because I was used to something for 7-10 years of ordering something through a different site. So a lot of CSRs will have to answer a lot of questions, I would say, at the beginning. I've done initial trainings with customers who are using the stores, and just a 15-minute phone call will solve a lot of issues, versus sending out an email and not letting them know how to access it, how to get to your orders, where's your order at, et cetera, et cetera. And then one big challenge I had recently, and Trent was along that journey with me, was with a client I had. The pricing for the shipping was not matching because they had like really big packages. So we had to configure master packages. And then it turns out that they were getting their shipping prices from a third-party shipper, not from the actual FedEx account. So
you kind of have
I think it was around
July. We had to level down that question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was around July 4th holiday that I was calling the receptionist at the printer, and I was like, can you send me that code to log into that shipper, because I need to check real time what the prices are. And it turns out bad marketing for me, actually, but I wasn't entering the box weight where it had to be, and that's why there was a discrepancy. So when I figured that out, everything made sense, and I just went in and changed the box weight, which was something so simple, but it wasn't adding up to the store. It wasn't working real time. It was giving prices, and obviously shipping is very important because your customer can lose money or charge, ridiculous amounts for a small box. So you have to make sure that everything's in place. And then when I finally figured it out, I felt like I deserved a medal or something, because it was something that was very stressful. But yeah, just little things like that come up that, you have to solve. And
well, when those little things come up, and Stephanie and Mike, how often do you talk with support? How often do you lean on support? Are you a figure it out on my own, or is it hit that chat and ask a question type of thing?
Well, for us right now, we've been just hitting that chat and asking the question, because we're trying to determine, is it something that's in the admin portal that we can do ourselves, or is it something that they need to go think about it and do some custom work. And now we're at the point where we ask the question, and it's just more familiarity, and we're actually turning the corner where we're not asking as many.
That's good.
So we're excited. It's not multiple times a day, it's once a day. Or it can wait a day if we set up an appointment. So it's not as bad as it was. But that's like any new software, any new product, you're going to need all that learning curve to get rolling. But once you get going, it's exciting.
Stephanie, that same question to you. I mean, leaning on support, which I think is a major, when you're evaluating a web to print, you need to make sure that the support structure is there, because no question is too small, in my opinion, especially for me.
Yeah, really similar here. Constant communication at the beginning, but not so much now. I find that the documentation's great. I am definitely a figure it out type person. Mm-hmm. So, doing a little bit of research, I find like most of the time I can find my answer, and if not, submitting a ticket is also very convenient.
Well, let's transition. So kind of our last little point here before we open up for more questions. on looking at this is that, so we're in three, this is what we're in three stages of kind of where we are. Francia from more of a, kind of established and been going through there. Stephanie, you guys have been transitioned over into this kind of topic for the past year or so. And then Mike, you're getting to that point and already starting to kind of look at, okay, now we've got to, we've got to the line. Now we got to go past the line and kind of the what's next. So when we're talking about we've made our plan, we've worked our process, we have our initial starting point where we want, and we are now gone live, whether it's B2B or B2C. Now it's what next do we do? Mike, I like you. We've already had to answer this question, but I think what you're talking about is already there because you're starting with B2C. So obviously SEO, social media, being able to now drive the traffic becomes a huge, if you build it, they will come, worked for Kevin Costner, not for everybody else.
Yeah. So we're starting out the B2C, but that's just the portal. But 80% of our business is B2B. Okay. We're going to be reaching out to our existing customers to say, hey, we've got that new thing. We've got this thing that will save you time. Are you hurting? Do you don't have the graphics person to get this done? Come to us. You don't want to wait for proofs? Come to us. It's going to save our customers a lot of time, and hopefully they'll be able to land their order quicker or a higher percentage than they would have before. And our product is an add-on product for signage. So most sign companies and even print shops, they don't lead with the ADA signs. They lead with their lead products, and this is an afterthought or their customer asks. So we've got to make it easy for them to say, would you like fries with that? And that's what this is. So for us, we're excited. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Stephanie, and you guys more in the commercial space, using this a little bit as a tool, start to using it as that tool, not just going back to, your existing customer base and your larger customer base. So then, you were talking B2B, now trying to look to capture out to maybe a larger market, but, using it as that tool to create those efficiencies on the front end. How have y'all, I have, customer focus groups, customer feedback, things like that. What do you hear from your customer base that's using the online ordering system?
So like we were saying earlier with the testing a lot, just getting our B2B customers to just, take a minute and look at it. They all like the UI way more than the old site. So it's been a lot of positive feedback. Another thing is collecting emails is great, building our database for, marketing to be done in the future. But yeah, it's been a lot of good feedback, and we're constantly adding new products with the B2C. It's still being developed. So
how easy is it? Now that you're a little more comfortable with it and you kind of understand, when you're looking to add a new product, are you wanting to build it from scratch, or are you taking maybe a similar product or a base product and then just duplicating that and kind of modifying it so you're not having to kind of start from scratch?
I certainly prefer to copy an existing product. Once we've put in a large enough array of different products, usually you can find one that's pretty similar to the one that you want to add. So it's very convenient. How
long does that kind of take? When you want to sit down, do you sit down and go, okay, I'm going to spend the next hour and create one or two, or is it kind of as it happens type of thing?
At this point, it's as it happens, but it also depends on the product. Some of the templates can get a little complex, which take a little longer, but just a ready to order item is usually pretty quick.
Same question to you, Francia. Determining when to add new products. This is what you do for a lot of customers. What's kind of the process in that?
I think many times it's duplicating products because they will use the same pricing structures. You just kind of change the thumbnails. Templates are a little different. I don't like to copy templates because some might have drop downs that might be copied over. Certainly one thing I like to do for everyone is when you're this is a little more complex, but when you're building out the PDF blog templates, having the same naming conventions for all of the stores keeps it pretty clean. So maybe the name can just be full name, or, having just the same naming convention works, and labeling products in a certain way that it's easy to find. So that, if you have a store that has 2 departments, making sure that in the stores have like different products, making sure that you're labeling everything correctly so it's not confusing. Because I've worked with clients who have already set up their products, and it can be a bit messy, so it's really hard to find, and you can get stuck in where you see a template in the front end and you're not sure what it's connected to in the back end. So I would also suggest having a very clean naming convention and following through, and you're setting yourself up for success and making it easy to start other stores, and even using them as an example to sell other stores. So
and good naming convention, we'll put that back on the bullet points, and and think of that. I didn't think about that. That's actually a good point. So Mike, you're at that point now. Is like, have you already kind of started thinking about, okay, are we looking to kind of get things there and kind of gather the feedback and then start in, or are you already thinking kind of what's phase 2, what's phase 3?
Yeah, we already have our list for end of third quarter, end of fourth quarter, first quarter 2025. These are things we want to do. These are products we want to add. These are markets we want to go after. So they're all out there. We put them, but the goal, like anytime you want to do a launch, it always takes longer than than the date you put down the calendar originally. But we want it to be a good experience, so we don't want it to be this clunky thing that they don't come back to. We want to make it nice, and so that's what we've done. And so we have other products we want to add, other sign series. We want to make it so a sign company, a print shop, can come to us and become a dealer of things that need to be laser cut and layered signs, and so what else is next? So we're already brainstorming and putting it on the list. We constantly look at other companies out there that are doing things and say, well, look at how they do it. Well, how can we do it on PrintShop? So yeah,
well,
we already got our plan for the future.
I love that. I love that there. All right, so I'm going to ask one final question, because this kind of goes along, and I have the phone a friend home version of questioning that has come in. I got a text for this one, but it's a very good question. So because you're in the Mike's here, Stephanie, and then Francie, I'll start with Mike and ask this question, because time was a big factor in the fears of doing this. How much time? And I know you have two people that are dedicated to this, but how much time do you spend on any given day or week do you think working inside of here, not just to get it going, but also to kind of maintain?
For us at Erie, it is right now. It's a major focus because we see how important it is. So there's I've got somebody working just on the going over the audit, making sure that when they click on a sign right now, the colors change, and so we've got our 2 full-time people, but we have another 1 or 2 people, I'd say 1.5, just helping us at the launch, and they'll go back to their day jobs after we launch. So it like we did with our WordPress when we did that a few years ago, we had a couple people working on it, and then once we got it launched, it just worked.
Okay.
So it's getting it launched, but once it works, it's going to work. So we're not worried about that.
And Stephanie, you are the hands-on for OnPrintShop at Lacoste. So give me kind of an idea of how much time do you typically spend inside of the platform? We'll call it the platform.
Yeah, I think that the estimate to get it going being what I think 5-6 weeks is realistic. It's already in working, and it's just a matter of you filling it out. I think maybe it took us a little bit longer with all of the integrations that we wanted to add, but you can certainly get up and going pretty quickly, and then it's just a matter of slowly adding, continuing to grow. At least that's our approach. And then, now on a maintenance level, I would say, a few hours a week, more if we need to add, a new round of products. But I would say that's about right.
And Francie, this you are the hands that are inside of OnPrintShop. So I mean, from your standpoint, take one particular site. How often do you think someone needs to, in your opinion, be in there working, not from a CSR standpoint of watching orders and moving through, but doing the maintenance, checking pricing, updating templates, adding new things. What's your there?
It depends on the stage that you're at, but if you have everything set up, it's a couple of hours a week, because you'll have clients that will have a rebranding, and then you have to set up a whole array of new stationery. So that takes some time to set up the templates and everything. Or maybe you're starting a new store, you have to import all of the customers, make sure the email templates are working. So a couple of hours a week. I've also been on the Stephanie's shoes and Mike's shoes because I did this as my full-time job 3 years ago, where I was basically migrating everything over from scratch to OnPrintShop for the printer that I worked at. And that became my full-time job, like from start to finish, because they had a lot of big stores. So a lot of products, thank God they were static, but it does take some time to, build out the catalogs correctly, putting everything under the right categories, making sure that customers understand where everything is located, making sure that all of the templates work. For example, this is one of my favorite anecdotes working on templates. I was traveling because the printer was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So after a year, I started working remote with them, and I would visit like once a year. So there used to be a direct flight from here to Dallas, which lasted 3 hours. And I remember I was working on a menu that had over 100 variables, and I was just starting out working with OnPrint. So it took me the whole 3 hours to get that template, like the whole flight. I bought Wi-Fi, and when I landed, I was like finishing up everything. So, at the beginning, it can be a bit overwhelming, because you're on top of starting a store, you're also learning a new language, basically, which, with practice, it becomes easier. But in the beginning, don't be surprised if it takes a lot of time. But, after that, and you get things going, a couple of hours a week to check on everything, as I said, if you have a rebranding or something, that might take a couple of hours a day, maybe. But yeah. It gets easier as time goes by.
And that's why you want to have a technology partner. And this is where I will talk on OnPrintShop, and making sure that, we understand it's a challenge to implement, but we want to make sure that, we work with you to help you get where you needed to be. We make that plan. We understand, the best practices. And then, with store setup, we can be an additional help there. The live chat, the email support, and then obviously the constant upgrades. So let's take a couple minutes here towards the end. Let's get some questions from our attendees. I see Star back in with, do you have any recommendations for integrations? What are most helpful or important to you? So from integrations, Stephanie, obviously you're connected to your MIS, which is EPMS. But Mike, are there any other integrations that you guys or Stephanie, that you guys have done or are looking at?
Well, of course, our accounting system to QuickBooks Online, integrating to that. Also, ShipStation, because that's what we're using today. It's easy for our people to use it, and they just have to, it will go right back into and from our payment portal with the credit card. I mean, it's everything we've done. If we had a little problem, OnPrintShop helped us out, but it's been pretty seamless. And we're exploring Zapier right now with a couple of things that we have here in the building that we want to try.
I like Zapier.
So we'll find out here in the next week.
Stephanie, what's with obviously EPMS with you guys, and again, great partner there. But what are some other things that you guys have worked on?
Yeah, that was a big one. we were specifically looking for that when we were searching for new software. I think maybe in the future we would be excited to look into the MailChimp integration. And then also another one that we did was like the hot folders and the XML, which sort of goes along with the MIS system as well.
Okay. Francie, what do you see?
Well, I've worked with EPMS and also Presswise, and there's obviously been challenges, but the on-print tech support team is pretty good at communicating and getting on calls and making sure what is not working and what needs to be connected. And also it's important to know, so obviously I'm like a third party person, I'm not in the printers that I work with, so it's also important that the people in the production team, for example, who are getting the job tickets, are letting me know, hey, I need this in the ticket, so how do we get this from OnPrint to our system that we use. Again, the tech team is very helpful in getting that going and providing the support that is needed when there's integrations that seem very overwhelming at first. They make it possible. So
perfect. And yes, Jeremiah, we do work with Shopbox, so we can have more information on that. Again, I got another question here: B2B or B2C? Obviously, there's three different thought processes here. What do you think is easier to set up?
I would say B2B.
Stephanie, what do you think? I know obviously you guys started with B2B, but
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
And then Mike, and really truly, Mike, you're using the B2C, but you're working with your repeat customers, but B2C in terms of the overall.
Yeah, most people come to us in the past. We'll just say B2C because we wanted the storefront built, and then we will work with our customers to use those existing products and add theirs as well later. But in the sign industry, they're buying one sign and they're done. They get a repeat order a year from now. So it's not the same as print where they're buying the same thing over and over with different variables. When the building's done, it's done. Unless there's another floor for a hospital, then they need add-ons and things like that. So, ours is a little different.
Perfect. Let's see, suggestions, recommendation for a print reseller. So someone that is, my opinion there, Stephen, would be, recommendations is going to be the same in what, Mike and Stephanie are talking about. You're looking to be able to reach your customers, provide the products and services they need, but really it's creating that streamlined workflow to get that order capture, all the data they need, and then get it to whichever end needs to be there. So Mike, you work with a lot of resellers, so yes, same kind of concept there.
Yeah, so we work 80% of our business, like I said, are people that take our they send us a drawing, some artwork, and then we quote it, and then we create it so that our machines can make it and our people can fabricate, and so that's how we do it today. But this it's going to be a game changer because they're going to be able to not have to go and get that custom thing. Now we can customize it, but they're selling our products because it's not a core for them. And by having this portal, this tool, they're not going to even try to do this because the amount of the investment we're all making to do it, because we know the future, they're not willing to, they probably won't do it. So we will be in the driver's seat. And the same for the people in the print world. If you have this, it's going to be great.
And it takes you, we love to talk about how growing from local to global printer, but also, there's other videos that we would love you to check out from OnPrintShop on how we can discuss on how to take, multi-channel sales for multiple print segments and be able to stream all that line into, one integrated back end for, wonderful, efficient order management with all of the different connections and integrations that we talked to, and then just how to be able to step and grow. And we'll start to kind of wrap all this up. I want to again thank our panelists. If you need more information, obviously, we'll reach out to you. You can also go to onprintshop.com. If you are going to be joining everyone in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming up in September, we are at booth C719. And I do want to point out the fact that we are very appreciative and we are very excited. Our wonderful development team has spent a lot of time on version 11.1 and was rewarded with a Pinnacle Award for 2024 from Printing United. So lots of new things and more new updates going to be coming soon with our next version, because we're always on the move. We're always on the rise. So Stephanie, Francia, Mike, I want to appreciate the three of you joining me today. I think your insights are very valuable. You guys are in the trenches. You've mastered, you've overcome the challenges, and you've made that conscious decision and then moving yourselves forward. So any parting comments from the three of you?
My comment is you need to do it.
And if you need help, I can help you.
There you go.
All right.
And obviously, if anyone would like to get in touch with Francia, we can more than happy to get an introduction there. And Stephanie, I want to appreciate you, stepping in here. I think, any other questions? You've got a very valuable background of the fact that you've been through all the different pieces, but you touch it from a commercial standpoint. You interact with OnPrintShop, the staff, and then how your customers interact on a day-to-day basis. So I do appreciate you jumping on. You guys are kind of well into your journey, and hope that everything is well for y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you, everybody.
And with that, we will, there is a survey at the end of the webinar. We do ask that everyone please take a moment to answer that. Some very valuable feedback for all of us. And hope you join us on the next webinar, which will be coming up, and join us at Printing United this September. From everyone in the back end, my entire team at OnPrintShop, who are doing a wonderful job of putting all this together, we appreciate them. And again, thanks to Mike, to Stephanie, and to Francia for joining us. This is OnPrintShop, and we thank you for joining us. More information on printshop.com.